Hello, I'm Lucia Garsys, Chief of Development and Infrastructure for Hillsborough County, and you're watching Tampa Bay Community Network.
Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. And I don't know if you remember the terms that Harry Truman, well, some of the terms that Harry Truman used, I can't say. But one of the things he had on his desk was a sign that says, "The buck stops here." Well, today we have a lady who has an even bigger sign on her desk that says, "The buck stops here." I want you to meet my guest, Lucia Garsys. Lucia is the Chief Development and Infrastructure Services Administrator for Hillsborough County, and that is a really long title, Lucia.
It really is long, and it's often difficult to tell your neighbors what it is you really do with that title. So the business card often has to be twofold.
I always find it funny, you know, with these long titles that really don't say what you do. Yeah. So let's talk about what you do, because you work right under Mike Merrill, is that correct?
I do.
You're the first level under Mike?
First level under Mike.
Our county administrator, for those of you who don't know Mike.
Right, so his first level are called chiefs. And Chief of Development Infrastructure essentially is, the way I explain it to my neighbors is, if dirt moves, chances are it was permitted or done by something in one of our departments. So development is all of the development entitlements, the zoning, the mid-range planning, construction plan review, building permit review, anything that someone might want to do to their land to improve it. And Public Works includes all the stormwater, so we had quite a heavy season this August.
With all this rain,
and we were quite busy in the Northwest, particularly with a lot of stormwater issues, but also the whole transportation initiative, everything from building new roads to fixing existing roads. And you know, sometimes maybe people don't realize that the roads that we have in Hillsborough, if you lined them all up mile by mile, you'd have 6,700 miles of road. So that would take us from Tampa to Boston, all the way across to San Francisco, and then back again to Tampa. And that's the kind of road infrastructure system that we have to maintain.
Sheriff G likes to mention that when he's talking about staffing in his department.
Well, and it's a huge, I mean, it's 1,000 square miles, and it's the size of Delaware. And in addition to that,
wow, really?
Yes, population almost 4 million people. About 4 million are in the city of Tampa, which means the rest of them are in unincorporated Hillsborough. So unincorporated Hillsborough really does serve as the municipal government for all of the folks in unincorporated Hillsborough. It's like the city government. You know,
it's really strange that for those of you that aren't Floridians and are watching this program and really haven't looked into the county setups here in Florida, how many places we think are cities but aren't. Like Brandon is not a city.
That's right.
Apollo Beach is not a city. Ruskin is not a city.
The only three cities in Hillsborough are, of course, City of Tampa, Temple Terrace, and then Plant City in the eastern part. Everything else from Keystone to Lutz to Carrollwood are still unincorporated. Apollo Beach, Sun City Center are all very, very diverse communities.
And throw in Gibsonton in that mix and it gets even more diverse.
Gibsonton, Brandon, it really keeps going on about how, we estimate about 26 diverse communities in Hillsborough County.
When I first got here, I found myself driving through Gibsonton into one of the back neighborhoods, and my wife was with me, and I said, "Phyllis, look at that. That's a giraffe, is it not? And it's moving, so it's real."
Well, that just underscores the diversity, because we do have all of the show business folks who live in the Gibsonton area, sure. Some then down 41 in Sarasota.
It's wonderful, I just love it.
It creates just this incredible pattern of diversity that you really can't find anywhere else. And you're right, giraffes and lions and trapeze set up. We really are a very diverse county.
So let's take your various departments one by one.
Wait, I haven't told you yet, too.
Okay.
We said transportation, stormwater, and public works. We also are responsible for all the solid waste pickup.
Oh, I forgot solid waste, yes. That's a big job, and you
Yes.
just went through that whole thing of putting out the new containers and everything?
And it's seeming to work very well. We've got good responses, about 22,500 homes that we serve. And then all of the water and wastewater.
Now, is that rolled out across the whole county now, or is part of it not?
All of unincorporated Hillsborough.
Okay.
So City of Tampa handles their solid waste differently. Temple Terrace handles it a little different, as does Plant City.
How many homes?
250,000. And about comparable number of water and wastewater clients as well. We serve water.
Oh, so the water department is under you also?
It is, as is the wastewater and the reclaimed water. So we have really what's classically the, public infrastructure departments, as well as all of the development and services in the departments.
Yeah. I'm slowly visualizing the guy that's hopping on one foot, patting his head and rubbing his belly at the same time. With all these departments, there has to be a real diversity of things that comes up every day in your office.
Well, it is interesting because my day, while it could be planned with a series of meetings, will range from dealing with high level strategic planning, policy-related issues. And then right in the middle, there's a call from someone that says a building permit hasn't been issued, and I'm trying to track down where the building permit is. So it is just the range of everything from policy to strategic initiatives, to dealing with political initiatives, all the way down to the building permit and the pothole. I can't tell you how many calls I get about potholes.
We should mention you have one able assistant that
I have an incredibly able assistant without whom I couldn't get any of it done. She's tracking my emails, and there are hundreds that come in every day. And if she needs to find me, she's tracking me down.
Let's give her name. We'll give her a plug.
Sandra Pinole. She can find me when, regardless of where I am, sometimes in unexpected spots, but she will track me down and find me.
You know, a lot of people don't realize how important an executive assistant is.
Especially in a position like ours.
And they don't get enough credit, I don't think.
Nope, absolutely not. I mean, they are essentially doing the day-to-day operational work while I'm off doing something else. So anyone who understands that really can appreciate what they contribute.
Let's go back. You handle all these things, but where are you from? Where did you get your training? How long have you been with the county? Let's take those one at a time. Where are you from?
So, native Chicagoan.
Aha.
Grew up in Chicago and spent pretty much the first 30 years there. Attended.
So you came here last week?
Thank you. Attended both undergraduate and graduate school in Illinois. I went to the University of Illinois for my master's. I'm an urban planner.
Okay.
So that has given me a really broad range of kind of understanding of how cities work. But it was complemented by a lot of work that I did in a lot of the communities outside of Chicago in doing redevelopment and redevelopment financing work. So that introduced me into the importance of infrastructure and how you pay for infrastructure. So I was able to understand not just planning, but the infrastructure component, the engineering side, and then the financing side. So
I think that had to be about the time that many of the cities, the urban centers, were starting to collapse, wasn't it?
It's really interesting that you say that. So in one of my first jobs for a consulting firm, I was sent to many small jurisdictions. I was in Salina, Kansas, Lawrence, Kansas, and at that time the downtowns were deteriorating, and there was an effort to try to save them.
And those are really old towns.
Old towns, and
Bloody Kansas, going back to that time period.
They were, of course, malls were developing at the time, so there was a lot of sprawl and a lot of movement of the retail functions out to the suburban fringe, which was causing the downtowns to die. And as a result, the solution everyone applied was, well, we must close the streets. And so there were a
make
lot of
them walking
malls.
paths and
For
stuff,
some
yeah.
reason, that was the, it's the lessons in retrospect. why
Denver
we
did
thought
that.
and now they're undoing it. A lot of them are undoing it because they realize they need the hustle and bustle of the cars and the pedestrians. So I can recall one of my first jobs in Salina, Kansas was standing on a cold day interviewing people. And there were 5 questions, and they were supposed to be magical questions, but one of them was, where did you buy the last pair of shoes? To try to get a sense of, were you shopping at the mall or were you, committed to downtown? So that's how it all started.
So you came here when? When did you come to the county?
I came to the county in '89. I spent a little bit
Really?
of time in Washington, D.C. and worked for Fairfax County, and then came here in '89.
And what was your first jobs when you came to the county?
So my first job, interesting that you say that, I was responsible for zonings in the southern part of the county.
All right.
So when you talk about Gibsonton, so here's this girl from Chicago who comes, right? And I'm with my staff. And they say, we have to go look at these projects because there's a request for a rezoning. And that was the first time I really did encounter what you described. I mean, there were giraffes and trapeze people, and I thought, oh, really?
It's a jewel. It really is. I love Gibson, and I love to just travel around in there, and that circus they just had was fabulous.
But it just gave me a sense of the diversity and the size. When we would visit sites in Sun City and then had to go to Keystone, that was a day.
Oh, yes.
That's a day trip. You had to pack a lunch. You had to pack a lunch.
We do have some pretty good restaurants
Now,
on Sun City now. I'll tell you. Then you moved on from zoning to where? How's your progression through these various departments that got you where you are?
So that's an interesting question, because then I was tapped to administer what was then called the impact fee program. And impact fees are fees that development pays for impact on transportation and schools. And I remember resisting that job, thinking, well, I'm a planner. And in retrospect, that may have been the best training ground for understanding how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. So I managed the impact fee program and then moved to managing a capital program, which made sense. That it was kind of the capital, the infrastructure side, and the financing side of infrastructure and special projects that were done with developers. And
So you really understand the economics of these departments.
well, that's what all of this gave me, is the understanding of the economics of the departments and the economics of what it means in the community. And eventually led to this position that then really incorporated kind of all the training that I've had. It was almost like I was set up for this.
Had a godfather moving you through?
Well, somewhere.
Maybe it was just God.
Somewhere. And just really blessed to have had these opportunities, because I think it gives me now this perspective to see things in a very different way, that people who come from one specific functional area may not be able to understand how important it is to integrate all of the other pieces. Yeah, so so then eventually ended up here, and love it every day. That's not to say I don't pull my hair out.
Well, you've still got pretty good hair, so you're on. I'm getting a little short here.
But it just is, because it's always something new. There's always something to learn. There's always another problem to solve, and that's really what motivates me, just gets my adrenaline going.
Works those puzzles, huh?
I love the puzzles. I love the puzzles.
And something you said, I believe if everybody looks back, many of our greatest setbacks turn out to be our best lessons.
Absolutely.
If we treat them as a lesson and move forward from them.
That's so true, especially those when you're younger and something happens that sets you back and you just think, I don't know how I'm going to recover from this, I don't understand why. The why comes later. The why always comes.
But you have to be open-minded to it.
You have to be
look
open-minded.
for why.
The why always comes. You can always figure out why why something happened to get you to where you are today.
I remember once I was paralyzed and I couldn't even roll over. Somebody had to roll me over. And at the time I kept saying, why? But today I'm much more empathetic to those who face problems than I might have been otherwise, because I understand what it is to be helpless, not being able to do something.
And those are the lessons, right?
Yeah.
Those are incredible lessons.
Let's talk about your departments.
Okay.
Which of them would you like to highlight first?
Well, let's talk about development services, because
Okay.
I think I really am proud of what we've done in development services. It is kind of a naturally antagonistic relationship between regulators and developers. I mean, they...
And there should be some.
And there should be. And clearly they want to move forward with projects, and regulators have a way of saying, you know, for public purpose, these are the different things that need to happen to help build a healthy, vibrant community and not compromise those overall community goals. So over the last 5 years, we have worked very hard. We've turned around a lot of staff at the leadership levels to make sure that the people who are in place understand the regulatory principles and the overarching goals, but also understand that development is a key component of any community. And so trying to strike that balance. And I believe we've created a really good working relationship with the Builders Association, with developers. That is not to say that it's all smooth all the time. But what happens when you develop that relationship is you get a little slack when things don't go quite right. So if things aren't moving as quickly as someone would want, when you develop those relationships, and really I think it's ultimately folks believe they can trust you, once that starts happening, I think then the rest of it just builds on it. And
Let's
so
face it, in America today, nobody trusts government. I'm sorry, but that's the way it is. Nobody trusts government. And there are good people like yourself that are trying really hard to change that. But it's still something you have to surmount every day when you walk through those doors.
And it's inch by inch. It really is just inch by inch, and then you get a setback that takes you back a foot or two, and then you just have to keep going because...
And of course, the legislature's no help to you.
Well, and you know, it really, that, you're right, manifested itself in how we deal with a lot of the infrastructure that we get from developers. The development community has contributed about $200 million of roadway improvements, big ones, not just internal subdivision roads, in the last 20 years. And the recent legislation really tied our hands, and so we are now looking for alternatives and mobility fees and other ways to do that.
Yeah, they can put 200,000 homes on a parcel and not have to worry about building streets for it.
And we really are at a point where we now have to just really bite the bullet and address these issues. And the development community is willing to work with us, you know, in terms of finding those alternative ways. Because at the end of the day, a good transportation network benefits their future homeowners.
Very definitely.
And it's saleability, and parks help sell projects, and school helps sell projects. So,
what other departments you'd like to highlight?
let's do public utilities.
All right.
Because, you know,
everybody's interested in that.
Yeah, I bet not. But here's what
No, I'm serious when I say that.
So
without public utilities, we're in deep trouble.
well, and so this is water and wastewater, and when one thinks about it, you know, we turn on the faucet and the water comes out, we flush the toilet and it goes away.
And when we have a storm and that doesn't happen, we got problems.
We got problems, and absolutely. But I think the system that we have an incredible system with 7 wastewater treatment plants, 4 water plants that serve this community, and always rated at the top by the professional organizations and all of the different folks who assess how well we're doing. We treat our wastewater to advanced levels, which is just we're one of very few communities that do that. and when you think about it, we can say public safety is important, roads are important, but if we don't have water and wastewater, that would be
Look
sheer
at Flint.
That's right.
I mean, it would have cost Flint, according to what I heard the governor say up there, $100 a month to treat that water. And they decided, no, $100 a week to treat that water going in, and they decided it just wasn't worth it.
Our board is very committed to purchasing some of the remaining. We have some private wells and private franchises. Our board is committed to buying those up, and we've been doing that to ensure that we have really continue to have the kind of water and wastewater system that we've had.
I've often wondered, there's not a lot of discussion about what you put down those sewers. And I imagine a lot of times we're putting things in there that makes it very difficult for you to take them out or take care of.
Like the occasional rag that goes down, or?
Well, I'm thinking more like drugs being flushed down the toilet. That used to be,
right,
more often than not, they tell you go ahead and flush them down the toilet. In fact, I know within the last 4 years, hospice, one of the hospices, flushed some drugs down the toilet the night the guy died so nobody could get at him.
Right.
Oxycodone and those things.
Yeah.
And yet I'm understanding that's very difficult for your departments to get out of the water.
And then it does. It creates those issues of having some kind of remnants in the water, wastewater. We test ours, and so we are now, that we continue to be at safe levels. We don't have any indication that that is an issue here.
I like the flavor of our water. There's a lot of places it's really hard to drink.
I do, and I grew up on Lake Michigan water, which is just yummy. And
yes.
So coming here, this was really a nice kind of companion to Lake Michigan water. Yeah.
So moving from there to?
Let's go Public Works.
Public Works.
So Public Works is stormwater.
Okay.
Solid waste, we talked about that a little bit, and transportation. And stormwater is a huge
That's
issue.
all under Public Works.
It's all under Public Works. We're talking about a total of about 1,800 people when we talk about these three departments.
Not mentioning all the contractors that are out there doing.
Correct. We do. That's a really good point, Bill, because we do a lot of work that's contracted out. A lot of our design work for roads, for example, or any facility. We're building a new wastewater treatment plant in the Northwest. That's all being done with private design build initiative. But a lot of the mowing, a lot of the stormwater cleanup is done by private crews because we just have to supplement. We can't keep all those folks, and it gives us a little bit of flexibility.
Does Sinkholes come under your department also?
Well, Sinkholes does in part. The remediation, our engineers work on a lot of the remediation. So depending on where the sinkhole is, if it's on public property, even the private property ones, we assist. But we do it again with contracts. We send specialists out to look at the sinkhole.
You can't keep them on staff for
No,
the occasional sinkhole.
That's right. But you want them to have that fresh expertise so that when you need them, it is just immediate, it's fresh. You know that all of their credentials are up to date, and they've studied the most recent issues and can address them. So we use consultants to do a lot of the remediation work on sinkholes.
With the solid waste, I'm kind of a creature of habit, and I kind of resisted the new system with the carrying out these big barrels every time when I had 2 little tiny bags in them. But our street really has come around to that. Several people now, if one of us gets out first, the other will throw their stuff in that one. But it works.
What's really interesting that you say, your trash doesn't get filled up. What we're finding is that folks' recycling bins are filling up faster than their trash bins.
Believe it or not, we have some very good friends that live in an area that they don't recycle. It's an apartment project where they don't recycle. And so they bring all their stuff over to our house once a week and dump it in ours.
And put in the recycling bin. And so the recycling.
I assume that's all right now. I've said it on television.
Well, but I think the
idea is to recycle this stuff.
And it has been, I think our community has responded incredibly well to single stream recycling. And we made it easier. You don't have to separate newspaper from bottles, from cans.
Oh,
it just all goes into one box.
Love it. Dump it in there, away it goes.
Away it goes.
Although we're being told now, and in fact, my wife, who is a reporter for the Observer News, may be looking at an article on recycling. And one of the things I think that she told me about it was evidently the plastic bags gum up, the loose plastic bags gum up the works.
So interesting that you say that. We're actually working on a public service announcement piece because a lot of items like the bags from the grocery stores actually do create more of a problem when they go through the recycling process. They fly in the air, and as does styrofoam. So we're trying to help educate folks about what really goes in the recycling box and what ought to go in the trash or return to grocery stores.
Sure.
Grocery stores will collect
that's all
bags.
part of it. We're down to about 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay.
So let's talk about whatever we've missed at this point, or if you want to talk about one of the other departments.
I think what I want to say is there are really cool things happening. And really the county in the last 5 years has made major strides, and I've watched it for many years. The most important one to watch right now is transportation. Transportation is woefully underfunded. As I said, we've got 6,700 miles of roads. We need to address the transportation issue. We need to get buses out to communities that need alternative choices. We need to make sure that we change our land uses so that we are poised in the future to accommodate bus rapid transit or trains or something that will give us the ability to move people quicker and faster. But I really think the thing to watch in the next couple of weeks, the board is going to be discussing the transportation initiative, alternative funding sources, mobility fees. So I would ask all of your viewers to stay tuned and watch all of those various initiatives, because those are the things that are really going to change this community and really take us into the next century, to be able to allow us to have families here, stay here, and encourage growth and job growth and make us the quality place that we really want to be.
Well, I have to tell you, if I were an employer coming to this area and my people had to sit in the traffic that's on 275 every day for an hour going in and an hour going out, I'm not sure I'd come here. There has to be some kind of an alternative to that traffic jam that starts every day at about 3 o'clock.
Well, and that really is, and there are other contributors, and not just widening roads, but changing land use habits.
How much of America
patterns.
can we pave over?
That's just it. How much can you pave over, and do you want to pave it over? What it was the Joni Mitchell song, Pave Paradise and Put Up a Parking Lot. Well, is that what we want to be? And so it is really giving choices and looking at alternatives, but being poised to be a community for the future.
Being open-minded to it at least, and thinking about it, and rather than saying no, 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 saying, okay, what can I do? Or what could we do, rather than we can't do?
It's not for us, it's for our children and grandchildren, and if we want them to stay here, we have to make this the place they want to come back to when they
Well, I think it's for just selfishness. It's for us too, because we need it. Lucia Garsys, it's such a wonderful thing to have you. Will you come back?
I will come back if you have
promise?
me back. Absolutely. It's been delightful.
There's
It
so
really
many
was.
things that I know everybody'd like to hear. I'm Bill Hodges. This is Spotlight on Government. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often, because you are, you know, and we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government. Lucia, thank you again for being so good.
It was my pleasure, Bill. Thank you for having me.